So when do you think you can learn a new language, Spanish? I want to learn Spanish, but I don't have time. When do you think you can find me a time for myself to learn a language? A new language, Spanish, which takes a lot of effort and time. When do you see that time? So the number one thing is to replace your words, meaning replacing your language that you use daily basis. Like, you don't change activity, but have a partner, find a partner in your work or in your family members. Maybe study together would help, but even you are studying alone, you could talk to them, and so you could talk to them that you need to learn and then practice this language, so you could start speaking that language to that person. Of course, the person has to understand Spanish, otherwise the conversation wouldn't make sense. But you will be able to find, surprisingly, you will be able to find a person who speaks Spanish in your world that you live in. So take advantage of that, and just replacing, don't need to change the activity, but you have an activity with that person, then switch the language. Just stop using English with the conversation with that person and switch to Spanish. And second thing is to find between time. Even in our busy life, there are 5 minutes, 10 minutes time that we are not doing really anything in between things, between activity, between schedules. For example, when I was learning Spanish, I carry my dictionary and books everywhere. So whenever I find 3 minutes, 5 minutes time, for example, in the doctor's office, actually you have more because they let you wait, right? So why not use those times? And then if you do that continuously, every day, daily basis, then you will accumulate 5 minutes learning every day, many times. And that will actually motivate you because you will feel the progress. And actually that is much better than finding 1 hour, 2 hour time, 1 day a week. You want to do 5 minutes spot study every single day. And the third thing is to switch the thinking. Here, not the words. The best thing you could do is to think about the desire, the vision that you want to accomplish by being able to speak Spanish. What is that your vision? And think about that all the time. That will actually switch your thinking process to how you can get it. So your brain, in the back of your head, always it's gonna be in the learning mode. So that's the 3 tips to be able to learn Spanish very quickly without changing your lifestyle. Hi, so you wanna learn Spanish, but you wanna do it so quickly, so fast, so efficiently, so you don't wanna waste your time. You actually wanna create more time to actually be able to speak Spanish and enjoy that experience. So number 1 tip for that is to tackle on verb conjugation right now, today, at this moment. Don't wait on it, because that is crucial to really master Spanish, and you can't do it without it. So start today, because if you postpone it, you are pushing the achievement away in the future. I don't know, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. But just start it today. That will exponentially speed up the process. So that's the number 1 tip. And then if I have only one, I'll give you this. Start verb conjugation today. And number 2 is to understand the difference of the grammar. It's different. It's so different than ones of Japanese or English. So you really have to understand. As an adult, we learn a language, new language, different than children do. Okay, just don't do listening and repeating. That's one important part, but that's not all. And if you just do only that, you're gonna fail. So just don't do that. And to try to understand the grammar, because as an adult, we have more sophisticated, advanced, developed brain. We have advantage over children. So if we, and I'm an advocate of being open-minded, right? Just like children. Like even act like children is good because you can run better, you can absorb things better. And if we have children's open-mindedness, and then we have adult sophisticated brain that can process a new language logically, we are actually in a better position to learn a new language than children, right? So understand the grammar, the difference of it, like study on it. And then number 3 would be stories. Stories really help you connect yourself to the language you are learning. In my case, I read the fairy tales like a Cinderella and a Little Red Food that you call in English. I don't know, but it's called Caperucita Roja in Spanish. But and also I purchased the Spanish edition of my favorite author, Haruki Murakami, his novels, and I read it and I had a really great experience because I'm reading my favorite author and he was telling his story in Spanish, and that was a great experience for me to connect myself to the language that I was learning. So that was great. So do the story, like you just implement the story in your study, okay? Just don't say hello, how are you, my name is, okay? And number 4 will be hop on the internet and find the meetup groups that have a study group once a week or something. And if you can't find one, you can create your own, and that's so easy. And you can charge $1 each for the participant, and then they wouldn't mind. It's just $1, and then have the meeting at Panera Bread, local Panera Bread, because Panera Bread is a great place to have a study group. We come as a group and then do our own stuff, and we don't buy anything. They don't care, and they don't bother us at all. We tried in many different places, but they want you to buy, so they come around and then bother the study group. And some of the members didn't want to pay more than $1 because they came to study, right? They came for the practicing, and they didn't come to eat, so they didn't want to buy anything, right? So have the meeting at Panera Bread, and I hope these tips will help you and enjoy your life, enjoy studying Spanish. And so vamos a hablar español y disfrutar nuestras vidas. Chao. Why I didn't go to the language school when I decided to learn the Spanish language, and why I wouldn't go to the language school if I decided to learn the Spanish language again. And through my experience of actually the struggles learning English as a second language, I really knew what I needed to do if I wanted to learn another language. And I knew that if I went to the language school, the teacher wouldn't give me what I needed, because the teacher school give you things a little by little. And I knew that if I wanted to learn the Spanish language very quickly as I wanted, because of the reason I decided to learn the Spanish language, I needed to do it quick, and I needed to take a multi-angle approach. I had to actually tackle on the language from all the angles, and I couldn't miss even one angle. And the school wouldn't do that because they don't want to scare the students away, because it's their business. So they will make sure that the student wouldn't be upset and take the whole path that they lay out. But that is a slower track that I knew it would be a slower track. So that's why I did it myself, because I knew everything that I needed to do. So I went to look for the resource for each angles, and I did them all. And the trick was that you have to take every angle. That sounds being overwhelmed, but I found that the way that anybody could take all the angles at the same time, because all you needed to do is find 5 minutes, 10 minutes between time that you all have in between activities in busy daily life, and also like basically implementing all the practice into your life. Buenos dias. So, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. This is my one of favorite book, and then this really helped me a lot when I decided to learn Spanish language. And the book is about the compilation of the stories about how successful people are successful, right? You know, the Malcolm Gladwell found a lot of researches and then himself researched into the reason why successful people are successful. And one of the story is the rice paddies and the math. And what is the relationship between rice paddies and the math? And it comes down to the character of successful people. One of the successful people is that they all have the character of patient, like a diligence. There is the fact that Asian students are so much better than in their score in mathematics problems. And the reason is not because Asian students had a special brain, unique brain that can process mathematics problem better, but instead they all had a better character in terms of patience. And then the research found out that Asian students, most of their ancestors are rice farmers, and rice farming really takes the effort. Rice growing is extremely difficult because they need super attention and then care. So the rice farmer developed their character of this patiently keep taking care of their rice growing, right? Rice crops. So the Asian student inherited its character of patience, which translated to a better ability to actually eventually get in this mathematic problem solution. Mathematics is something that no one can get it right in the beginning. So even though you don't understand now, you have to keep tackling on over and over again until you get it. And the Asian student had that character of being patient, so that's why they had much more better score than any other ethnic group students. And other stories that somewhat relate to is and then also that helped me a lot in terms of learning the new language, the Spanish language, was that the Canadian Professional Ice Hockey League, which is one of the world's best ice hockey league. The professional players are mostly born in January, if not February or March born. And why is that? Because the Canadian educational system start the year in January. So January born students are so much in the same grade. January born students are much more grown, right, than December born students. So they had an advantage of getting attention. Basically, they are most likely be selected to special education, special team practice, and they got much more opportunities at that age than any other students. And so takeaway from that for me was how to make myself in a better position. Like, how could I put myself in a better position in terms of acquiring this new language skill, which was the Spanish. So it really helped me a lot. And no matter what your endeavor is in your life, this book really helps you in order to really get your mindset right in order to pursue that achievement. So if you have read it already, I would love to hear your opinion, and if you agree with me or not. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend to read this book. And if you did, please share your opinion with me and then the others. And so, hablamos más tarde y que tenga buen día. Hey, what's up? So, I really love this book, Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell, and this helped me tons for my learning experience of the Spanish language, because this books mainly talks about like many stories. I mean, based on research that true stories that the author researched into it, right? Different stories really come into this a main principle the book talk about, which is the outliers are not just genius or innate talents that they had when they were born. Rather, outliers had a particular commonality according to the research, and that is their character of persistence and the diligence, and also where they were able to land it, the situation and the group of people that they hang out because of time they're born or where they live, or how they change those circumstances. And also they all commonly had at least 10,000 hours of practices for whatever they are good at. So it really actually encouraged the readers that anybody are possible to achieve anything that they want if they are committed to carry through their practices, right? And to position themselves in the better places than they currently are. So then this really helped me because I understood this concept, so I applied to my language learning. And so I really focus on how I could position myself to be able to better learn Spanish and also take advantage of people who actually speak Spanish, and then how I could interact them more time to learn from them. And also the patience is important, that book says. So I really focused on how I could consciously look at myself and then being patiently tackle on that language. And with the method that I really came up from the learning experience of the English language, because that was my second language that I struggled with, I was able to successfully learn the Spanish language fairly quickly, and I believe that anyone can do it. So I want to really recommend you, no matter what, if you're not interested in learning another language, that's fine, but no matter what you are pursuing, I would really recommend to read this book, Malcolm Gladwell, Outlier. And like a 3-story, my favorite stories are 10,000 hours stories, and also Life Buddies and the math story, and also the Canadian professional ice hockey league, which is the world's best professional league for ice hockey, was really occupied by January to March born players, especially January born players. And this was very interesting story too, right? So check it out. It's really fun book, and you would enjoy, even if you are just looking for something fun, just pick it up. And if you are trying to achieve something in your life, then this is the must book. Hi, so today I want to talk about introduce 2 books, Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, and this is Chi Running by Denny Dreward. And those 2 books really helped me to learn Spanish language. These books are actually for a book for running. Many years ago I started, running, and the first was just to attend 5K running event. It was corporate run, and so I decided to attend with my coworkers. And then, it took me like 40 minutes to finish. I was almost dying, and then I started, training a little by little, and then attend more of 5K and 5-mile type of a race. 5K is only 3 miles, and eventually I wanted to do a half marathon. So I started the training of half marathon, and I follow the schedule available on the internet, and slow by slow, little by little, increasing the distance of training. And then I come to hit the wall that I couldn't I wasn't probably gonna be able to finish the half marathon because my knees and my ankles started hurting. Obviously I was running wrong way. And then I came across this Born to Run first, which is very inspiring stories. It's really about like a super athlete tribe, like Tarahumara in Mexico, I think, was a legend runner. And then they run almost like a barefoot. It's not barefoot. I think they do like a really just a simply sewn fabric sandal, and then so the American Super Runner somehow communicated with them, so did the legendary race, and then the story about that. But also, book introduced the theory of human evolution and how human beings are supposed to be a long distance runner, and then that's how we evolved our body and how we stand and then upright, and then we can walk lengthy distance, and actually we can run long distance without an effort. The thing is that animals has to stop when they overheated, and they have to stop to drink. And those are two things that any other creature not being able to run long distance or continuously. But as human beings, we evolved so that we can use our hand while we are running and then drink water, hydrate ourselves, and at the same time, as we were running, our sweating system can cool us down. So we never have a problem or overheated in order not to be able to continue to run. So this made us really able to hunt down any animals that we want for our survivals. For that, the theory that we were supposed to be a long distance runner, and then somehow I came down to this Chi running book. This is all about running form. Try to teach us proper running form so that we can actually do long distance running injury free. This is the point, injury free, because I had a problem with issue with the knees and then ankles, so I immediately started learning the method, and then I actually implemented it. And then I was not just being able to complete the half marathon, but I was able to do the full marathon, and then so I did numerous half marathon, and then I did 5 marathons, and I was really proud of it because probably I would do 1 half marathon in the beginning, right? But then so this works. These 2 books really are great. This is inspirational, and this is more technical. But I applied these books. The reason I'm introducing these 2 books is these books talks about the concept of human evolutionary runners, the theory of us being a long distance runners, and I really applied that into Spanish learning when I decided to learn Spanish. So the children, and then I'm sorry, I forgot. And so those 2 books actually talk about children, how children run is the right way to actually run. Children always want to go, so they swing their arms very big, and then also actually they want to go so bad, so their upper body goes first before their legs goes. So actually, and that is the proper running form, and then a lot of us do it in the wrong way. That's why we get more impact than necessary on our joints, and then we get injury. So that is not good. So, and these are proven method because I've done it and it worked. So I applied the concept that they're talking about, the evolutionary things, and then so I thought about it. Wait a minute, I want to learn Spanish now, and then I'm kind of getting older than I used to be. Like I decided to learn Spanish when I was probably 37, but then I decided, and then wait a minute, children learn language easily, and everybody does that. So we must have ability to learn a new language, right? And why do we lose that as an adult? Wait a minute, children do the proper running form when you're children, but then why as an adult we do it the wrong way and then get injury, right? So there must be a way to learn language just like Chi running, the method. So I thought that way and applied the concept into language learning. And from the experience of struggles in learning English as a second language, it took really long time, but I eventually made it. So from that experience, I kind of extracted into a method that maybe that children would do, and also as an adult, more maybe I want to put it into the form that so we can learn more efficiently. And so that's how I apply the concept from this Born to Run and Chi Running. These are amazing books. So if you are a runner or even if you're not a runner, it's really amazing book. There is something about running shoes are made and actually make us more injury prone. So it's really interesting book whether you are a runner or not. If you're a runner, definitely. I mean, this one, Born to Run, is very inspiring, and then this one is very technical, but helped me a lot. I mean, I finished 5 marathons. And again, like I apply the concept to my language learning, the stories and the concept that you can read, and especially the evolutional human evolutional theory on presented in this book is very interesting. And the technical thing is how human beings are made to run. I mean, those things can be applied to anything, because as we are human beings, I wanted to apply that concept for how we learn language, a new language. I hope you enjoyed this episode and hope to see you and enjoy this Born to Run and Chi Running. So why do people fail learning a new language, whether it's second language or third language or whatever? The reasons I will tell you, I know because I've been there. Because I really struggled learning English. Now I comfortably speak English, but I studied English in Japan for more than 6 years, maybe 8 years before I came to the United States. And when I decided to come to the United States to study, and I came here, and I couldn't really communicate with people because my speaking ability was not there, and then listening ability wasn't there at all. And I struggled, but I was admitted to the school, and I had struggled throughout my academic years. And also when I got a job, I struggled with communicating with people. And I know because it was part of my fault, because the reason people fail, okay, so the good thing was I put myself into the land of the United States. So I had no choice of giving up. I just had to keep going. So I eventually got it, but it took so long. It took way too long. And the reason I almost failed, was because of the mindset. My mindset wasn't there. In order to acquire new language, you have to really available to take any opportunity that's available for you, because we all have a busy life, and we're not afford to change our lifestyle, most likely. And so we have to be able to, we need to seek first the opportunities, and we need to take on those opportunities whenever it's available. When you start seeking, you will find them. And number 2 reason is, once you have the mindset, even you have a mindset, if you take the steps, I mean, there are steps for the learning, right? But you have to tackle every steps at the same time, as many steps as possible in the beginning, because there is a process of learning a new language, and you can't wait some steps for later, because your brain has to process the information as soon as possible, because it takes time for your brain to process the language, the logical part of, in order for your brain to understand. And oftentimes people take step by step, literally one step at a time, and that means you are delaying, procrastinating to start the process for many steps for later days. That really push your day to really, I call this threshold. Imagine that there is a bottle, and then you are pouring water, and then at one point the water filled out in the bottle, and then water
will spill out. That's the threshold point. And the language learning is just like that. So you have to put information and you have to process them until your brain understands finally. And there is a moment you realize water spilling out. Basically, you now understand, some foreign language they're speaking, you understand. And you can actually realize you say something and then they understand. That's the threshold point. And you need to get that, and then you need to start process right away when you decided today, if you will say. And the last part is to put it into practice. And this is the best way to say, because like I said, everybody has a busy schedule, busy life. You have a life and you can't change your lifestyle, but you can really put it into your practice. You just need to seek the opportunities and take every opportunity, whether that's finding a small amount of time in between your activities, or maybe you adapt or you creatively change your activity, but you get the same result, or maybe you don't need to change activity, but you need to change something creatively so that you can really keep doing that activity, and at the same time you can do practice of the language learning. So basically those are the things that I think the reason people fail their language learning. I say this because I've been there. And when I was accepted to the school, and I was studying for master's degrees, and then I really struggled for the study. Imagine you are investing so much into your life and time and energy and money, and you can communicate at the best level when you want to participate at the maximum level, right? And then I still remember there as a discussion group, and every time there's a discussion group, I really felt really bad because I couldn't sometimes catch up with the speed of a conversation, and I don't understand the topic. I get lost, and then and I couldn't speak up when I really should speak up to expand my knowledge and understanding of the subject, right? And one day, I still remember, there was a discussion group, and then my friend Jeff, he was a journalism major, and changed it to the subject we were studying, but he's a very nice guy, and he thought probably I was just shy not to speak up. So he just, after he expressed his opinion in the group, he just, gave me opportunity by saying, "What do you think, Ryota?" And so I was like, just to fill up the space of the moment, I said, "Thank you, Jeff." And the next thing, I couldn't speak anything, and I had to keep silence. It was so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed, and it just hard to not be able to communicate well. And we want to communicate in as many languages as possible. I'm not just talking about like a language like Japanese, English, Spanish, French, but we need to expand our language ability, because that's the way we can expand our circle. We can communicate, and we can convey our message to more people in the world. So the life is about experiments and experience. And as the Chinese old saying, a frog in the small well never see a big ocean. And we never want to become a small frog in the pond who never see a big ocean. There are so many Spanish speaking people in this country, and have you ever in the situation where a group of your friends are talking in Spanish and you have no idea what's going on, but you can't show your frustration because you don't speak Spanish? Or have you ever in the situation, a business meeting, where all the business conversation and business decision were made in Spanish language, and you were really sitting there and try to pretend that you are listening to your consultant and client, but you are really doing, or you're really waiting for your coworker to translate it for you? Or have you ever desired to go and travel and experience the country in South America for its amazing land, amazing people, and amazing places and amazing culture and history, but you didn't because you didn't want to be seen as a general tourist who doesn't even speak their language? Or have you ever had a crush on Spanish speaking girl, but you didn't think you could have a meaningful conversation because you didn't understand the language she spoke, and therefore you wouldn't understand the culture she were grown up? And I've been all there, and then I originally spoke one language, which was Japanese, and then it took me for a long time to learn English language, but I'm glad that I did, because one language can only describe so much, and having another set of language skill really means you can have a different way to describe the same thing, and you can see the things from different angles. And I'm even gladder to learn Spanish language as my third language, because I have whole different perspective, wide range of, and then I could appreciate so much thing in this life, in this world. And like old Chinese saying, we never wanna be a small frog lives in the well who never see the big ocean. As far as I'm concerned, we have only one chance in this lifetime, so we want to see big oceans, right? And then we want to experience that. So, and actually the fact is, we were only one step away from getting so much closer from acquiring a new language skill. The most important thing is to start, and that's the biggest steps among all, truly. And as Chinese old saying, we don't want to be a frog in a small pond, never see a big ocean. Because life really happens once for each of us. So one of the things that we should fear is to have a regret at the end of our life, because our life happens only once and we don't want that. But most of people, including myself, have all the fear in the wrong thing, so that prevents us to do and take action on what our heart tells us. And that is going to be absolutely going to be a regret at the end of our life, don't you think? And I had, I think, twice probably near this experience. One was when I was 6 and 7 years old. I had a chore from my mom, and I was going for a chore, and a car hit me. I got hit by a car at the intersection of local highway, and at the moment my classmate saw that incident, and she ran to my home, which was 2 blocks away or something, and informed my mom, and my mom had to run to me and ride ambulance with me, and I was completely out, and I had to be hospitalized for over a month, and I still have a scar right here. The doctor had to operate me and drill my skull and take out the water out of my head. And anyways, that's what I was explained. And that was one. And then I think later stage of my life, probably I was already late 20s or sometimes in 30s, probably around 30s. But I felt something was wrong with my heart. I felt it was stopping. It was ceasing to work. I don't know how I can explain it, but I think I had some kind of a heart attack, and I really don't know. I never went to the doctor. I'm still alive, as you can see, but I think something had happened at that moment, and I really felt I was at my time had arrived. That's how I felt. But anyways, and then my dad had some kind of heart attack, and then because doctor told me that he had a scar in his heart, the sign of a heart attack, and then he might have had something small when he didn't even realize. But, and before I get off the topics too widely, we have so many fears on the wrong thing that actually prevent us to take on action, take series of action that we want to have in order to get what we want in our lives, what to prevent from doing things that our heart tells us, right? And that's going to be 100% become regrets at the end of our life. So instead, we should have a full fear of having regrets at the end of life. And in my experience, I'm so guilty of having wrong fear all the time, in my 40 years of my life. But a few, like I've done some big action based on this fear of having regrets in my life, which was one of the biggest thing was I came to the United States. I made a decision. I was so fearful for other things, what other people would think or what's gonna happen and stuff like that. But I made that action because based on other fear, which I think we should all operate based on that fear, which is having a regret at the end of our life. And even when I decided to study Spanish, learn Spanish, I was so fearful of what the other people would think. Like, when I think about it now, it's irrelevant and it just doesn't make sense to have that thoughts. I mean, what other people think? Of course, they think whatever they want to think. Like, I'm just started studying Spanish. Well, so what would people could think like that? You can be so fearful of. So the fear is sometimes we oftentimes have a fear of irrelevant fear of the wrong thing, and the fear was important at throughout our human history, I guess. For survival, fear stopped us to do something stupid that could kill us, right? And that was true in ancient time, but today in modern society, that fear actually prevent us to do things that improves our lives, right? So, and the fear that prevents what our heart feels to do or what we truly want to do is, I don't know what's gonna happen at my end of my life. And like the most misery that could often happen for us today, I believe it's a moment of regrets at the end of our life. That is the saddest, most misery that could happen for us. That's what I believe. And so I don't know, do you think I'm crazy to think like this, or do you agree, or do you disagree, or do you have some other opinion? I would really love to know. So please comment below in this post, and please like and share so that I could hear more opinion from others. And I just would like to know. And fear is something that is inevitable, I guess, for us to have, because our brain, it's like psychological foundational thing of our life. But we have to be aware of the fear that we have and where that comes from. And as soon as we recognize that pattern, we can really control for our advantage. We can drive our fear for something good for us, not drives our fear for something bad for us. So 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. If you can change your 5 minutes, how you can invest or how you utilize those 5 minutes, next 5 minutes today, that will change your next 50 years of your life, your destiny. Because once you tackle on that 5 minutes, then you're gonna be so excited. I promise you, you're gonna be so feeling so great that automatically you're gonna start looking for those 5 minutes more. And then when we realize, even though we have very busy everyday life, you know, we have responsibilities and, you know, to your family, yourself, and your work and everything, whatever you committed to, you can find many of those 5 minutes between events that you are participating every day, daily basis. And what typical people would do when they are driving, commuting, just like I'm doing, what they would do is listen to their favorite music, radio station, or news. They will listen to the news, whether it's local, international, because they are curious, right? But instead, if they can listen to educational program while they're driving every day, especially personal development, working on yourself, and it's going to have a significant effect on us, because we can upgrade our mindset, which is the way to think, way to view the world, and the way we respond to the happenings, the inevitable happenings happen every day, right? So we can have a new way to live. So what they do when they wait at the doctor's office, typically people pick up the magazines that they provide or watch the TV that they play for them. But instead, if we carry one book of our choice and open up in that 5 minutes and read one page, only one page or half a page, that's going to give you an edge over anybody else, because you are improving your mind completely and your attitude will change. And like I said, it compounds, because once you start, you're gonna start look for more of those, and then they accumulate, because there's a lot of those 5 minutes in between time. I call them in between time, and that's gonna compound and then really truly make a significant effect in your life, in your future life. And the same thing, typically when people wait their friends at the coffee shop, they listen to cozy coffee shop music and ponder about whatever comes into their mind. Mind is endless, right? Mind can't be stopped. Mind flows naturally even while we are asleep, and we don't have a control of that, but we can have awareness to it. We don't want to be controlled by our thoughts completely, right? We want to take in charge of how to react to the mind flowing, and we cannot really control the mind, but we can be aware of them. And if you could change next 5 minutes, how you utilize them, how you invest it, your next 50 years are going to be completely different track. You are on the track to the new destiny. And yeah, you're gonna love it. Hola, buenos días, ¿cómo están? So 50% of you will ignore this in 2019. One of the most important things to have whatever you want to have or whoever you want to become, it's important to visualize that in advance as if it's real. And most of the people won't do this because it takes so much effort. Because it's not like think about it or just imagine lightly. You have to really get yourself into that visualization. And it's hard because a human being with natural evolutional psychology, we are built to doubt things. so that we won't put ourselves into dangerous things that could kill us for our survival. So one of the tips to fight that tendency is to find a person who already have what you want to have, and maybe have them as a mentor, interact with them, so you start believing what you want is real, so that you can start putting yourself into that dream. And strong visualization will bring us great feeling, like, so the mindset will change, and we have all the great thoughts all the time, so we will have automatic action. The action that you need to take to get that dream will become automatic and natural and effortless. If you have to take actions with the effort, it's going to be hard. But if you have a visualization, everything comes natural, because we are already on the path to get that dream. And so 2019, we all should have practiced this visualization very hard. It's not easy, but it's possible, and it will make sure that you will achieve that dream of your life.
Hey, so there are 3 things that you have to really pay attention when it comes to learning language, especially Spanish language we talked about here. But then actually, if you want to really learn efficiently as quickly as possible, these 3 things you want to cover. Number 1 is verb conjugation. I can't stress enough, in order to learn Spanish, verb conjugation is something that you must understand. You must nail it. And it's the master key to really understand Spanish language and being able to fluently have a conversation, and communicate with people. Now, the verb conjugation oftentimes it appears complicated, so it is considered as an intermediate thing to get into deeper, right? You just, oftentimes a beginner just treat the surface of the verb conjugation, and then that's it. But you actually want to really dive into deep level of the verb conjugation in the beginning. Ideally today, now, this moment, because you want to turn on your switch here. So this called brain, specialist of language learning, start processing those information. So as soon as start processing information, it will just keep processing in the back office of your brain. So someday your light bulb hit and it turned on, and then you realize that actually it's a simple thing. It just appears complicated in the beginning, but you don't want to wait to turn on your switch, because that means pushing your comprehensive realization date away into the future, and that's something that you don't want to do. Number 2 is a story. You really want to incorporate some kind of story into what you are studying, so you can actually connect yourself. You can put yourself into the story, the character of story, and you can really connect yourself to what you're learning. Without that, it's really hard. It's because language learning is like mathematical learning. It's really hard to really not get bored and just keep focused. And so the story is the one way to really have you focus connected to what you're learning. So incorporate the story into your what you're learning. That's number 2. Number 3 is time management. This is a basic skill for anything, to learn anything new or tackle. For everything, but especially language, because for language learning, even a small amount of time, you want to do daily basis. You don't want to leave a day off, right? You don't want to take a day off. You want to tackle on this language learning daily basis, no matter how small your time available is. So time management is crucial to make that happen, because you don't want to have studying once a week. No, you have to tackle on a daily basis, no matter what. And so the time management is a key, number 3. And all those 3 things and then more, I talked about super in detail in 15 minutes free class, and it's available for you. Just click the button below and sign up. You only need the email and it's free, and I hope to see you there, because it's gonna help you significantly, and take advantage of it, and see you on the other side. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Ahora, buenas noches. ¿Has vivido en la peor pesadilla en tu vida? Yo he estado allá. So what do you do when you are in the worst nightmare of your life? You are so unhappy, you feel like stuck, and every bad things keep happening to you, and then the worst nightmare you could ever imagine seems like keep happening, although you are so afraid of that. I have been there, and I felt stuck. And when we are stuck in that position, we can't see anything. It's just that, living in a nightmare, surrounded by people who are hurting you, but you can't do anything. You don't have a courage to do anything about it, and you are so fearful of actually even getting out of that situation. And so it's just the blinded, negatively affected mind really makes you really stuck in there. But actually, I came across to the solution, and I cannot credit myself because I didn't really act on myself, but it happened that I start finding many things that I tried. And actually, I tried something that I've never done before or never even knew before. I studied Spanish language, and I learned salsa dancing, and I went to Colombia, and I experienced for the first time the land of South America. I went by myself, and I found these things called online marketing, which I never known before, and all the things kept happening to me, and I took the opportunity to act on them, and the things start slowly change and significantly, and I start realize I was putting in the worst nightmare by myself. And so that's the takeaway from that experience, and I really want to talk about that, because when you are in a situation, and I think as we are living these things called life, we actually kind of feel like inevitable to go across that things, and we really don't want to waste our time staying in that really negative space for whole long time. And a lot of time I wish I could bring back those a long time that I lost, but things happen, I think, when you are ready, and I think things happened when I was ready. So really, you want to be ready. You want to be ready when that things happen. You don't want to stuck in that place for a long time. So, and like I said, this wasn't, any ways that I, came up with by myself. It just happened to me, and I'm very thankful that I'm being here today.
So why overloading excessive amount of information to your brain is actually good for learning a new language for you. Conventional way to teach any new language is to break things down into the bite size, so that wouldn't overwhelm no students, right? Nobody wants to get overwhelmed with the amount of information. But actually, if you overload your brain, it actually helps to learn a language quicker, because it's like learning a mathematics. It's kind of, any brain needs take time to process the information. So you want to start the process as earlier as possible, not wait for the later days. So that's why it's extremely important to actually keep loading more information to your brain. But nobody needs to get upset, because if you wouldn't understand everything. And so accept that and start processing, and knowing that you are by doing so, you are actually ahead of anybody who are doing a conventional method. So that's why it's super important to actually overload the amount of information to your brain, so it will process the thing. So you will actually get to the point that you understand everything. The light bulb will click, and so that moment will come sooner than you would do other way or you would expect it. So one of the way to fail fast on learning any other language is to not to incorporate any story into what you are learning, because the story is what makes you stick to what you're learning so that you can efficiently learn whatever you are learning. And that's why one of the best way to learn any other language is to put yourself into the places or the country where people only speak that language, so you can actually put yourself as a character of your own story in that particular place. And if you can afford that, typical way to do it is like a role-playing game, because any textbook or the school implement this role-playing of a character. One person can be flower shop attendant and other is a customer, or conversation between school and teacher conversation. But one of the best way, actually, if you can afford putting yourself into somewhere people who speak that only language, is to actually read fairy tales or a favorite author's book, translation version of that book, because you know the author, how he speak, how she speak, how he put things into the writing. So if you read that translated version of that book, you will really connect with that author, because you know the author and how he speak, and that's how one of the best way to connect with the language you are learning. Buenos días, ¿cómo están ustedes? So, what can you do to get started learning Spanish, even though if you haven't done before, or you don't know what to do, nor you don't want to spend a lot of money? One of the things is it's super important to be in the group of like-minded people who share the same dream and goal and vision, because we are human beings who are social animals. So it's really become hard if we are doing things alone, especially language learning, because we're gonna at the time we're gonna get really very frustrated. So we want to be encouraging each other in the group setting, and at the same time we don't want to be in the wrong group, because people could be sometimes discouraging for what you are doing. So find the perfect group for you who are like-minded group. And then one of the things you can do right away is to go to meetup.com and create your own group of Spanish conversation group or study group, and ideally have the meeting at Panera Bread, because Panera Bread is the one place I know that people, they don't care if you don't buy a thing, and you could have a group of people having conversation there. And actually oftentimes nobody really cares even if we got a little louder, so that's the best place to have that. And the thing about Spanish is the Spanish is second most spoken language in the world, and considering we are English speaker, which is third most spoken language, if we have increased if we are able to speak and communicate Spanish, which means we double the number of people who we can directly send our message to. We can really, people who we can really connect directly. And that's the most beautiful thing about, learning Spanish as English language speakers. And one of the things that really stopped us to start is most of us are perfectionists. We really are perfectionists. I'm so guilty of that when I was learning English language as a second language. And but the truth is, the idea of perfect today for you is not going to be a perfect tomorrow, because we are growing and we are changing every single day. So it really nonsense to really try to be a perfect today. And rather, we should really take first step, next step, and third step, a little by little, so that we could get closer to whatever perfect will be someday in near future. And I'm not perfect in Spanish, but I am now good enough to have a conversation and understand what Spanish people say it. So, of course I make a mistake grammatically and here and there, but it doesn't really, that is not super important as long as you can convey what you want to say, and then as long as you can understand what they're saying. So that's something that I wanted to speak today, and hablamos más tarde. Que tenga buen día. So why now learning Spanish or whatever, start learning? And I don't believe anybody would learn any additional language just for the sake of having additional language. I think people would learn additional language or new language because either they are forced or they decided to and then chose to do so to improve their lives. I think the communication is to improve life, have a better life with other people, because we need the social wellness in our life. We cannot live alone, and that's why people do that. But the why is, I think, from my experience, personal experience, is now or never, N or N. And when I look back my life, I think everything was that way. If I took any action, even teeny tiny action, when I thought about something, it started rolling, and it became my habit, and it went somewhere, because once it's a habit, I just kept doing, and it became something. But on the other hand, if I didn't even act on teeny tiny actions, whether it was because of the fear or some other reasons, it never became anything. So that's my conclusion. And the other reason now, why now, is really actually, I think the way the society changed. I think we are now we are able to connect with technically anybody on this planet. So you can find any teacher or mentors or conversational partners or group of people who have a shared vision or anything like that. And the technology has been advanced amazingly in a way that all the tools, if you desire, are available right there. So that's why I think now is an even better time to start if you want to start learning any other language or any other skill to do anything than when I was, or when we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? And so that's why now. And I was born in Japan, but I went to Turkey, Ankara, Turkey, after a month later with my mom, because my dad was already there, sent by the company he was working for. So I lived first 5 years of my life in Ankara, Turkey, but I don't remember how I was doing at that time. I went to international preschool, with the kids, and I don't know whether I was speaking English there or I was rather shy boy and then silent and then only spoke Japanese at home. But I also came back to live a few years in Japan, but we went to Algeria, North African country facing a Mediterranean Sea, and we lived, I guess my family lived for 5 years, but I lived there for 3 years, because after 3 years I went to boarding school, Japanese boarding school in Alsace, France. And those two countries are French-speaking country, but I never got be able to speak French because I wasn't forced to do so, because I was comfortable in Japanese community, and at the same time I wasn't really urged to learn a new language. So I just don't believe that anybody would learn additional language if either they are forced to do so or they decided and chose to do so to improve their life. And at that time, I wasn't eager to improve my life. But when I was 21, I think I decided to improve my life, and I decided to jump off the country and come to the United States. And that was the first time I took it serious to learn English, right? And then, but to be honest, it took a long time because I think first I didn't know what was so important, foundational things that you needed to do. So when I decided to learn Spanish language at my age 37, I think because of the reason that I wanted and because I didn't think I had plenty of time, just like, when I was studying English, learning English, so I needed to do fast. And I kind of knew what I should have done when I was learning English to expedite the process. And I knew all the things that I needed to implement to learn another language faster, and I was motivated too. And so I wanted to download what I did in Spanish language, and that's why I decided to do it now, to download and write down into the program, step-by-step program that anybody could take advantage of, because I came to the conclusion to believe that anybody as a human being, we can learn any other language at any time of our life. It just, our mind need to be conditioned, and we need to implement easily the daily practice into our lives, our existing life with other responsibility. And those are the two main things that we really needed to do learn any other language. So I wanted to create a program, step-by-step program that anybody can follow and then easily implement it into their daily life. Nobody has plenty of time. Every single person has a busy life. So that's what I started, and that's what I'm doing. And that's my part of now instead of never. So and then actually I got a few feedback for my first beta version, so I'm gonna rewrite a lot of things to make it improved and really make it better, make it complete. And then I'm not sure if it would take 2-3 months, whether it's shorter, sooner, or it might take more, but I'm really committed to do so. And that's my part of now. And your part of now, I would like you to really start something. A little tiny action could be anything, something to relate, because one action could actually expand your mind into every other direction. You will find a lot of things that you could never imagine, and that's why I found many ways to learn Spanish back then. And I want to build the community that you can belong, or anybody can belong with the similar mind. I mean, like-minded person, same kind of mindset and vision and goals. So, help each other. And then something that I wish I had back then. But the other reason of now is today is what did I tell already? Did I spoke this already? But maybe I did. It's today, but today is way better than 10 years ago. I think I did, all the technology and everything. Because when I decided to learn Spanish, I think it was several years ago back, but I already took advantage of technology. I used a meetup group, and also I searched all the available resources online, because I taught this in different time, but I decided not to go to school to expedite the process. So yeah, that's to why now. And so take any little action, even if it's not a language that you are pursuing. take any action on what you wanted to do, what you've been wanting to do, but you haven't done anything. And that is, your part. And I believe really 50-50. Whatever we do in our life, really what we do wants to be half for your purpose and half for others, basically. Half for me, half for others. Because it cannot be neither 100% selfish reason nor 100% altruistic reason. Neither are not good, because selfish is not good, right? It's clear, but it cannot be 100% altruistic reason either, because it's just not sustainable and it cannot be have a chance to succeed. So I want to create, actually formalize the method that I want to use this Spanish language program, but because I believe this method could be applied to any other language nor any other things, maybe not just language. So that's why that's my selfish reason, right? Because I want to formulate something so that I can use for myself. But at the same time, if other people can use it and step by step, just following, be able to be a bilingual or multilingual person or any other things, that'd be great. So that's why I'm doing. So now or never, and I guess that's why now. So let me know what you think. So they say learning a new language is expensive. Well, I would agree if learning a new language is something that you consume and you get nothing left and money is all gone. I would agree with that. But oftentimes we have to look at education or any learning experience as an investment, because it will add us to so much value to ourselves. So it is not something that you consume. You actually add so much value to yourself. So it is an investment. Then you can take a look at again as an investment and decide whether it's an expensive investment or it is a cheap investment, because investment actually could be expensive too. If you took a very risky investment and you lose all the money, it's expensive too. But is the education or learning experience risky for you? That's the question that we need to have all the time. And the marketplace will actually compensate you for the value that you are bringing to that marketplace. So you could only do that by adding value to yourself, making yourself more valuable than ever. And so that's why personal development is super important, because personal development is about making yourself more valuable person to everybody and to the marketplace. And of course you have to give 100% for everything, right? I mean, if you have a job, give a 100%, because that's what is called conscientiousness, right? And of course you have obligation and you have to do that. But then if you have extra, don't do that to others. Don't work for others, or don't work on others. Work on yourself, because that's the only way you can raise your value, become more valuable person. So the study actually shows that the research shows that a multilingual person, if they are on salary, they get 20% more paid. And another study shows that actually adding a new language to yourself actually does good to your brain, the development of the work of your brain. And I agree in a sense that I experienced when I added a new language skill to myself. Learning a new language is not just learning language. It's about, because the language is directly so deeply related to its own culture, which is different culture than the one you live in. So it's really about learning the culture and understanding different perspective that exist in this world, and adding that extra perspective to yourself is so much valuable, because otherwise you wouldn't have that perspective. Like you stay in the very narrow view, right? But your view is widened by adding a new language. And I'm not talking about a language in this case, because language could be maybe something like skill like coding, or maybe the professional language, whatever you're in. If you are a lawyer, you have to speak their language, right? So adding a new language is really about the skill set that you add into your asset, which brings your value up. So whatever you use, the resource that you use is not a cost, but it is an investment. Then you think about whether this is a good investment or not, whether this is an expensive investment or cheap investment. So that's the real cost of learning a new language. And you have to decide whether it's expensive or not. So one of the myths about learning a new language is that all person cannot learn a new language. It is not true. The reason an older person, adult, have a hard time to learn a new language is our mindset, because our mindset and idea and concepts are kind of concretized throughout during the time, so we don't have a flexible mindset as children do. So that's one of the reasons, and we can actually change that mindset, and that's the most important thing. And also how to implement practices into our daily life, because we all have a busy lives, and we tend to look at our daily life not being able to find any time to implement our practices, and that is actually a misunderstanding. When we look at in certain way of our daily basis, we could find actually a lot of opportunities to convert that into our practice that we need daily basis, and with that we can continuously pursue the endeavor, and the acquiring a new language skill is going to be inevitable, as we're all human beings who are capable to learn a new language at any time of our life. Because actually as an adult we have advantage of having a more sophisticated developed brain that can actually understand the language logic and the structures and the anatomy of the language better than that children do. So what if the grass will not be green enough? What if you make so much effort, so much action to start and continue to learn? What if the grass is not green enough? I mean, you ended up somehow, for whatever reason, quit, and you ended up not being able to speak or understand Spanish language at the end. Well, first thing, if we as a human being start something and continue something, and if we have strong enough motivation to continue, it's not going to be a possibility. It's going to be inevitable to be able to get what we want to get. So number one, if we have strong drive, we're not gonna fail. Number two, even if you had some reason that you have to quit, and you ended up not achieving what you wanted, but it's not gonna be waste at all, because in life one thing let another happens oftentimes. What you started, what you done so far will become a foundation basis for another thing. So it's okay to pivot sometimes for what you do, because as long as you keep going, you will get somewhere, and maybe you might change the path. You might pivot yourself to learn another thing, but what you've done so far or at that point would serve you for the best. So nothing's gonna be waste. So even if at some point if you realize the glass are not green enough like you imagine, don't worry about it, because it will serve you. It will bring somewhere that you were destined to. So start things, and I don't want to use this word, but if you start something and if you fail, it doesn't mean actually failure. It's going to serve you as a basis for another thing you pivot yourself into. So it is really, failure and success is only matter of perspective. One could look at the same thing as the past and knows that they need to go through to be ultimate success, right? To become ultimate successful person. And one could simply see it as a failure, and you get into negative spiral because of the negative thoughts. So there is nothing, the grass are not green enough, because that is only a way, the path that you are going through to a greener grass, to find the green grass, ultimate green grass. So I am a native Japanese speaker. I am not a native Spanish speaker. So I cannot show you a way or how to learn the Japanese language as second language, because I've learned it as a native language. So I have no idea what to expect or what kind of obstacle you are going through as a second language learner. And the same thing can be said for the Spanish language. A native Spanish speaker cannot show you a way of learning the language as a second language, because they've learned it as a native language. Adults and children learn the language in different ways. And when I decided to learn the English language, it took me so long, because I didn't know the foundation, and I didn't know how to get and nail the foundation right and in the quickest way. So it took me long. The good news was I was already in the United States, the land of the United States, so I had no choice but keep going. So I've come to the point where I am eventually, but it took me so long, so I didn't want that happen when I decided to learn the Spanish language. So I've made a decision, and one of my decisions was I didn't go to the language school, because the language school create a curriculum so that every single one of the students can follow through. So in terms of the learning speed, it's not optimized. So I thought through and I made a decision, and I went out to search the resources by myself. I went online, I went to the library, you name it, I went everywhere. And I found the resources, and then I decided to do it on my own. And actually I didn't ask any, the fortunate thing is I had many Spanish speaking people, friends, but I never asked anyone to teach me, because I knew every one of us do the communication, do the talk, in order to most efficiently communicate each other. That's the purpose. And if they know I am not fluent Spanish speaker, then they would rather want to speak in English, because I'm more fluent in English, because that's the most effective way to communicate. So I couldn't ask anybody to actually teach me. So I took a responsibility on my own for the learning part. And then after that, I went for, to practice, Of course, sometimes I was rejected because of the same reason. Sometimes I was accepted. but I never asked. I just went and started talking in Spanish and then see what happens. But anyways, I wanted to share this with as many as people. Of course, there are many people already who speak 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages, but there are so many people who still have just 1 language. So I would like to share this experience, because from my experience, having multiple language really expand our mind because of the increased perspective. Otherwise we don't have. So I really want to share this to as many as people, and today I want to share this with you for free. I will show you step by step. I will guide you for what I've known, and I will walk with you side by side, holding hands, and show you every single step so you can do the same that I did. And I can show you all the obstacles to come and how to overcome, so you don't need to waste your time. And I do this because I would love your testimonial. Today, testimonial is so important to spread the things, because without knowing the quality, you can't really try anything today. So I would love your testimonial if you had the result. If you didn't, that's fine. If you love it, I would love your testimonial. If you didn't, that's fine. But I will show you, no matter how long it will take, I will walk through with you step by step. And so let's do this together. And if you are interested, please comment below, or maybe you can private message me if you prefer it that way. It doesn't matter how you reach me, but if you are interested, reach me and let's do this together.